I am strapped into a truck that is not mine. The fire suit on my body says one name. The machine underneath me says another. The engine note builds. The scoreboard flashes a number nobody expected, and the garage goes quiet in a way that feels wrong. What happens when the car you are sitting in does not match the name on your chest? Something happened this week that NASCAR was not ready to explain. This is Richmond Raceway, and the driver is Shane Van Gisbergen. The truck carries the number 40, branded with HendrickCars.com. Van Gisbergen is a full-time Trackhouse racing driver, locked into a multi-year extension with the number 88 Chevrolet, a contract that was announced with no ambiguity about where his future belonged. So why was he climbing into Hendrick-branded equipment at Richmond on a weekend that had nothing to do with his usual team? The contradiction does not resolve itself, and it was sitting in plain sight before a single lap had even been run. Van Gisbergen qualified with a lap of 116.540 miles per hour, earning his first career Truck Series pole and his first oval pole in any national series he has competed in. The celebration did not last long. A pit road penalty was already on its way, and it would test exactly how real this oval breakthrough actually was. If you are new here, this is NASCAR Insider TV, and we are closing in on 1,500 subscribers together. If breakdowns like this one keep you locked in, hitting subscribe helps us get there faster, and it costs nothing to do it. Van Gisbergen was supposed to be the road course specialist, nothing more. His reputation was built in 2023, when he shocked the sport with a win on the streets of Chicago in his Cup debut weekend, a result that instantly defined how the entire garage viewed him. He was the road course assassin, a driver whose skill set began and ended in the turns. Ovals were the one discipline nobody expected him to solve, the weakness that kept his ceiling in check, no matter how sharp he looked on a street circuit. Rivals could count on that weakness every single week. Then the pattern started shifting, quietly at first, then impossible to ignore. At Nashville, he posted his first career oval top 5 finish, a result that raised eyebrows but was still treated as a one-off. At North Wilkesboro, the signal grew louder. He ran 3rd in the truck race, 5th in the Cup race, and led 49 laps across the weekend. Each result looked like an outlier on its own, easy enough to dismiss individually. Together, they looked like a pattern finishing itself, one race at a time, until Richmond made it impossible to explain away. Richmond was not a fluke. It was the next data point in a trend the garage had been trying to ignore for weeks. The race itself played out like 3 different stories stitched together. Van Gisbergen started strong, running inside the top 5 and picking up stage points along the way, building exactly the kind of race his pole position had promised. Then came the gut punch. The pit road penalty dropped him to 18th, and for a stretch, it looked like the story might end right there, buried in traffic with no way back to the front. That is the moment where a developing storyline usually dies quietly, one more promising run undone by a single mistake on pit road. But he did not stay buried. He clawed forward lap after lap, working through traffic methodically, cycled into 2nd during green flag pit stops, and survived a late caution by pitting under yellow and holding his track position when it mattered most. He crossed the line 4th, salvaging a result that had briefly looked out of reach. Afterward, he described the truck as getting harder to handle with every stint, the balance shifting under him as the run wore on, forcing him to adjust his line corner by corner just to hold the position he had fought so hard to reach. Then, the internet caught fire. What started as a race result turned into a full-blown storyline the moment fans began piecing together the visuals from the broadcast. A joke spread fast. A Trackhouse driver, sitting inside a Hendrick-sponsored truck on a weekend when nothing about that combination made obvious sense to anyone scrolling through their timeline. Screenshots circulated across multiple platforms within hours of the race ending. One recurring meme described it as collecting the Chevy Infinity Stones, a line that summed up the confusion better than any official statement could have. Reddit user EvenSA8561 wrote, "At this point, I don't think Hendrick Cars cares. They are going to sponsor everything they can, it seems like." That comment alone pulled in waves of replies, some agreeing, some pushing back, all of them feeding the same thread and keeping it near the top of the board for the rest of the weekend. From there, the jokes escalated further. Some fans began floating lines like SVG to the 48 in 28, treating it as an inevitability rather than speculation. Others pushed back immediately, pointing out that Trackhouse had just extended him, that the math on this theory did not add up, no matter how many screenshots kept circulating. That disagreement is exactly what kept the thread climbing instead of dying out overnight. Here is where the story stops being simple. Two facts sit side by side, and they do not comfortably coexist. Trackhouse Racing has publicly extended Van Gisbergen. He has called the team home. He remains the full-time driver of the number 88 entry, with the extension already announced and treated as settled business inside the organization. And yet, he keeps appearing in Hendrick-adjacent, Chevrolet-branded equipment, and every time he does, he performs better than the time before, which is exactly what keeps the theory alive instead of fading after one race. The simplest explanation is sponsorship overlap, the kind of manufacturer relationship that lets a Chevrolet driver run Chevrolet-aligned equipment across different ownership groups without it meaning anything about his long-term future. Spire Motorsports confirmed the entry itself when it announced Van Gisbergen would be behind the wheel for the Richmond truck race. But an official explanation for the branding overlap has not matched the size of the reaction building around it. Nothing about this arrangement has been confirmed beyond the entry itself. NASCAR has never needed confirmation to start a firestorm, and this one is already burning across every corner of the fan base. Comment down below and tell us what you think is really going on here, then share this video with another NASCAR fan who needs to see it. Pull the lens back further, and the real story is not about where Van Gisbergen might be racing in 2028. It is about what happens if the one weakness that made him containable disappears completely. For years, oval tracks were the built-in ceiling on his season, the place where the rest of the garage could count on him falling back regardless of how dominant he looked on a road course. If that ceiling is gone, so is the safety net every rival driver quietly relied on when the schedule turned toward mile-and-a-half tracks and short ovals. Top 10 oval finishes are no longer the exception for him. They are becoming the expectation, and that shift changes how competitors have to plan around him from the moment the season schedule is released. Teams inside the Cup garage do not need him to leave Trackhouse to start feeling uneasy about what comes next. They only need to watch him finish becoming a complete driver on every type of track NASCAR runs week after week, with no obvious weakness left to exploit. Back inside that unfamiliar cockpit, the questions are still louder than the answers. New Hampshire is next on the schedule, and the pattern has not finished writing itself. The rumors are not slowing down. The facts, for now, say he is still a Trackhouse driver, contracted, committed, and racing under the number 88. The fans are not so sure anymore. And watching the way this season keeps unfolding, neither is the rest of the garage. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next. We are almost at 1,500 subscribers, so if this kept you hooked, hit subscribe, drop a comment with your take, and share it with someone who needs to see where this story is heading.